All right, guys, welcome to Monday 11-9 Factoring with Trinomials. I'm sorry I can't be here today. I have a baseball game and we are taking off to Wausau to go play them. So here's a video on 11-9 Factoring Trinomials with a leading coefficient that is not 1. Okay, remember the leading coefficient is the first term in a quadratic equation. So let's kind of go through our notes here. Okay, again, so factoring trinomials with a leading coefficient that is not 1. What that means is that this term right here, remember most of our equations look like a squared plus b plus c, or in this example 2x squared plus 4x minus 21. All of the ones that we were doing last week, for instance, look like just ax squared plus 4x minus 21, something like that, where this was not even there. It was just a regular x squared, okay? So what we're doing today is learning how to factor trinomials that have a leading coefficient that is not 1. All right. So our strategy that we learned today is only going to be used when we see a trinomial that looks like this with a number out front. All right. So just like we've done in the past, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a process with you guys and also explain to you, I'll show you what the process looks like in an example. Ms. Chica, if you can please pause this video so that they can take down notes. I would appreciate that, and so would the students. So students, it's your responsibility to let her know when you need to do that, okay? Here we go. All right, our goal today, like I said, factor trinomials with a coefficient. That's with a number out front. And here's the process. Here is the example that we are going to use throughout this process here, all right? So what is the process? The first thing that we do is we multiply the first and last term. So we take 9 and we multiply. We keep that negative attached with the 8. So we take 9 times negative 8. And what do we get? Well, we get negative 72, okay? And so that's step one, pretty cut and dry, right? Don't forget to make sure you attach this negative, or maybe if the negative's here, to the number when you multiply, all right? So what is our next step? Next step is to find the factors of your product in step 1 that add up to the middle term. So this is just, so far, kind of the same idea that we've been doing before, where we find two numbers that multiply up to the last one and to the middle one, but now instead of the number being multiplied to the last one, we use a product from the first and last. So let's start going through that, all right? We're looking for numbers that add up to the middle term, all right? If our number here is negative, that means one of our numbers, one of our factors is going to be negative as well. So going through, I have 1 and 72. Now, does that have a shot to work? Obviously not, okay? I have 2 and 36. That doesn't work either. 3 and 24. All right, so I'm getting the idea that, well, these numbers are going to be closer together. Remember, we talked about how close are they going to be? They're going to be 6 apart, okay? And skipping ahead, I can realize that 6 and 12 multiply to 72. Now it's decision time. Which one of these numbers is going to be negative so that I get a positive 6? Well, that's going to be my negative 6 here. All right, negative 6 times 12 gives me negative 72, and negative 6 plus 12 gives me a positive 6. All right, so these are the numbers we're going to work with. Now we need to see what we do with them. From this point on is different, okay? So make sure you pay attention. All right, and moving on to our next step here. Don't forget we use negative 6 and 12. All right, step 3. We split the middle term into those factors, okay? We actually use those factors. So we split the middle term into those factors. So what does that look like? We actually rewrite the entire equation. So what do we have? We had 9x squared, so I'm going to write that 9x squared plus, and now I'm going to take this middle term here, I'm going to take this middle term, and I'm going to split it into these two factors. So negative 6, and don't forget to attach the variable, negative 6x, and I'm going to put parentheses around it, okay? Plus, I have my other one from before, 12, and I'm going to attach the x, okay? Plus negative 8. All right, so I've split the middle term into the factors. The 6x got split into those two things, okay? And now my last step is to, after I split that, I have to rewrite the whole thing as you see here, okay? Now this should look familiar because we learned how to factor things like this earlier. I got 4 terms. You should know from now that we're going to finish this off by factoring by grouping. Okay, so you've just created a situation where now we can go back and do something that we've already learned. Okay, so we're going to factor this by grouping. So we got to look for the greatest common factor of the first term. What is it? Well, it's going to be a 3x here. So I'm going to pull out a 3x. And what's left on the inside? I'm going to have a 3x left on the inside plus a negative 2. Okay. And what am I going to factor out here? What's the greatest common factor? A 4 is going to work. I'll keep this addition here. 4 on the outside, and then I'm going to have a 3x plus 2 on the outside. And from here, you should, I mean, this part we've already done before. We've done that whole thing. So now you should be able to tell me what our answer is going to be. Oh, sorry, I forgot my negative sign here. Remember, we have a common binomial that's going to be one of the answers. So 3x plus negative 2 is going to be one of them. And remember, our coefficients that we've pulled out are going to be part of the second binomial. So we get 3x plus 4. All right, so this here is your final answer. All right, so to review, what do we do? All right, first thing that we do is we multiply together the first and last term. So we came up with negative 72. Then we find the factors of your product in step 1 that add up to the middle term. And again, that's the kind of the same idea, same type of thinking that we've been doing with our other trinomials, but we're just using it in a different way now. Once we find those factors, we say, all right, now we are going to rewrite our polynomial and split this middle term into these factors, okay? And we split them so that we get 2 binomials. So instead of writing just that middle term, now we write the first term. Okay, we write that first term here, and then one factor, and then we write the other factor, and then the last term just goes along to the right. All right, so really we're writing 2 binomials, and that should be pretty self-explanatory. And then the rest of it is factor by grouping, which we have already done. All right, let's go through a couple more examples here. Let's look at this guy, okay? 3p squared minus 11p minus 4, all right? So again, multiply the first and last terms together, and we get negative 12. Now we need to look for factors of negative 12 that are going to add up to negative 11, okay? So my factors are 1 and 12. And if I'm looking at that, is there a way that I can get a negative 11? Well, yeah, if I make this 12 negative, and the 1 positive, I'll get my negative 12 when I multiply, and I'll get negative 11 when I add. So I gotta go ahead and start writing my binomials. Okay, my first one, remember that first term's still there, 3p squared, and then plus, I'm just gonna keep 1 here. Okay, plus 1, and don't forget to attach the variable that's there. Okay, you split it into 1p plus. Okay, and then the other half of your pair that you factored out, that you found the factors of. So negative 12 p again plus negative 4. All right, so let's look at what we got. Greatest common factor here is p. So I'll factor out a p. I got p, and then on the inside I got 3 plus 1. And then the next one I have, sorry, I got a p still left as a squared, plus, if I factor out a negative 4, then I will be left with a 3p plus 1 again. Okay, so my 2 binomials are going to be 3p plus 1, and the coefficients p minus 4. All right, and remember, how do you check your answer? If you FOIL it back out, can't spell FOIL. If you FOIL it back out, you should end up with this same thing where you have middle terms that will come together, cancel out to get your negative 11p. All right. Last example that I'm going to go through here, I'm going to skip through a couple, and I'm going to go to this one here. This 3a squared. I'll extend the page. What's at the top here? 3a squared, because this is different because we have an ab, all right? But the same process applies, okay? So take the last 2 terms, remember this is negative, multiply them together, so I got 3 times negative 10, that gives me negative 30, all right? So I'm looking for factors that add up to, or multiply to negative 30, and then will give me -1 here. Okay, so if I'm looking at this, I know that there's no possible way if I list 1 and 30, those aren't going to work, okay? Um, so if I keep going through this example, I'm actually going to go right to the trace here to kind of save steps. -6 and 5 are going to be the ones that work for us, okay? -6 and 5, I'll get my -30 when I multiply, and I'll get a -1, which is my coefficient here, when I add. All right, so from there, now I need to split my terms. So I write my first polynomial, 3a squared. And then I'll write my plus -6. And the variable that comes along is still an AB. So AB, I know that's really small, plus, again, the other term, 5, that we found, and again an AB, and then minus the last term, 10b squared. All right. Again, factor by grouping. What is my greatest common factor here? I can pull out an entire 3a, and then I'm left with just an a plus -2b plus, what can I pull out here? I can pull out a 5b. So 5b comes out, and what's left is a plus -2b again. Okay, so again, this works out. I got 3a plus 5b that I can pull out. Those are my first binomial. And then my last binomial is the common one. I got a plus -2b. And that is my final answer. Okay, homework for you guys is up on the board. You guys are on page 508. You're doing 2 through 32 even. Make sure you skip 12. Couple of instructions on this. Make sure that, just like in the previous worksheets that we've done on factoring, ignore the instructions that they give you and just factor it like we've done here, okay? Just factor normally, okay? Ignore the instructions, and you guys will be fine. Okay, I will see you guys tomorrow where we'll spend another day on this. So if there are still questions, we will wrap up and do more examples. All right, have a great day, and I will talk to you later. Peace.